Okay, YouTube, good day and welcome. Good day and welcome to another episode of Heart to Heart with the Rhino. Boris came down to say hi. As most of you know, anyone that's really followed the channel for a while, I used to do heart to heart videos quite often after I came out with my mental health issues. After after my almost 2 decades of hiding the things that had gone on in my life and things that had almost taken my life several times, I came out and I talked about them. Now I talked about them quite often. Usually it would be once a week, once a month, something like that. It's been a while since I've done a heart to heart, and mostly I stopped because things that would be said in a heart to heart video would get brought up in court when I was attempting to have better visitation with my kids, or attempting to, I see there's a comment, I will get to it, or during the divorce proceedings, things would get brought up, things that I brought up. It's funny because they tell you that mental health should never be held against you, but if you bring it out, if you admit to having problems, uh, things can be held against you in the end that will affect your relationship with, say, your children, as people go, no, he shouldn't be around his kids because of this. And I'm not saying everybody believes that. I'm just saying this is what was brought forward. So I've been needing to do one of these videos for a while, and I just haven't, and I haven't because of that, because of the fact that anything I say will be used against me when that person goes to watch it, or one of her friends watches it and does timestamps for her about what time to talk about things and this and that. So I've tried not to, and in all honesty, what I'm going to talk about now, I probably shouldn't because of that. But at the same time, do I give in to that and start pretending that I don't have these problems anymore and stop doing one of the things that does help me and has helped other people, or do I just let the cards fall and see what happens? And I mean, that's what I'm going to do. So there's been a lot of stressors in the last little while. My life has changed immensely in 2.5 years. Um, went from being extremely miserable every day of my life and sitting in a chair every night after work with a knife in my hand, thinking about ending it, which would have been my, if I had done that, it would have been my third attempt. Uh, but every same, I'd come home from work, I'd sit down there, I'd think about it. I would drink a few beers just to, try and fall asleep. Wouldn't happen all the time. Then I'd get up and I'd go to bed with my now ex-wife, lay down, fall asleep for 2 or 3 hours, and then be up all day. It was a non-ending cycle of me. I had about 9 years of not getting any sleep, and if I did get sleep, it was when she was off, and then I'd get yelled at that I didn't want to spend time with my family. Well, yeah, I was a zombie. I didn't want to, and you know what? In all honesty, I was just that. I was a zombie. I did not exist. The real me wasn't there. You guys got to see a forced me, which was partially what I was like normally, but you got to see for those years a me that was trying to forget about things. I used the review as a means to get out of my own head. I used the review as a means to cope, basically. I drank to cope, and it gave me a reason to do the drinking. Um, really is what it came down to. You don't see many videos getting posted right now, but I have tons of them. I have hundreds upon hundreds of videos on the computer. I have a bunch on this phone. I have a bunch on my other phones. Like I have lots of videos to upload, and they will get there. But so that was my life at the time. I was destroyed all the time. I wasn't a nice person either to her. I mean, I have to take my own responsibilities for the things that happened. I said some horrible things. I would scream. I would yell. I would do a lot of things. I had major depressive disorder and borderline personality disorder. So when I went off, it was from 0 to 60. It was from 0 to 60 either in like a millisecond, either to anger or to depression, and it nothing could change that. I hated everything about my life. She left. She left. She told me she was just going to visit her mom. Then she was, oh, I'm staying longer. I need to come get. And my mother had been divorced many times in my childhood. I knew exactly what was happening. The thing that pissed me off was my kids were taken away 2 hours away. I'm blind. But, things just kept happening. And then a little over a month after no, just about a month after she left, she sent me, yeah, we're done. And, broke up with me in text. 14 years of marriage, broke up in text. Again, it bothered me. It destroyed me, but it destroyed me for a different reason. It didn't destroy me because I was losing my ex-wife. It destroyed me because I was afraid of being alone at the time because my BPD was strong. Um, so I was miserable up until that point, and after she left, I did break down. I had some things that I had said and done, but none of them as bad as when I was in my childhood or my teen years, shall I say. But anyway, so that stuff happened. She left, and I did freak out a bit. But again, it wasn't a freak out like, oh my God, I love her so much. It was, what am I going to do? How am I going to survive? When am I going to see my kids? How am I going to see my kids if she's living in that area of Ontario while I'm in this area? What do I do? Do I leave here? Because I had nothing in Niagara Falls. I'm in Niagara Falls because my job was there and my kids were there. Now my kids were gone. Do I stay in a place I don't like and don't really have anything just because my job's here? Or do I go somewhere else? So those were questions going through my head at the time. Then court started. By the time I finally saw my kids for the first time, we were 6, 7, maybe 8 months into the divorce, into the separation, and a couple $1,000s for me into the court proceedings. I could only see them at first at Pathstones, which was a mental health facility, basically, supervised visitation exchange. So you would go in, you'd get your kids, not supposed to hug them, not supposed to talk to them about anything going on in their life, not supposed to kiss them, not supposed to do any of that because you could damage. She has control of my kids the entire time and can say and do anything with them. When I have them, I can't do anything. And you're watched. You're watched by 1 to 2 clinicians, and they make notes on everything. Blah blah blah. I hated it. I hated that that was how I had to see my kids. To an extent, it was a great thing because that's the reason why I now have my kids on home visits. My home visits are still moronic and are bothersome, but hey, they are what they are. I had a horrible lawyer, but it was all I could afford. I still owe him money, so I can't get a better lawyer. So if I ever do anything else, I have to do it on my own. Um, Lots of lies from her side, no responsibility at all from her side, which is, it's fine. You can't control what somebody else does. You can't control anything like that. You can accept it and move on or not. But I went from having my kids all the time, even though I never slept at all, to them being gone. In the first few months of them being gone, I took my health back into my hands. I lost 110 pounds. I put about 30 back on, but I went from about 350 down to like 220 at my lowest, and now I'm up at about 250 again. So I mean, I'm happy with where I am. I'd like to lose a little bit more. I'd like to get back down to the 230, 220 range. But I started working out again. Started dating. I went through and started doing all my therapies. I did cognitive behavioral therapy. I did electrical behavioral therapy. I did happiness and coping. Which was for PTSD because they weren't well, PTSD and depression and a few other things. So they put me into that. I did a course about getting out. I did a bunch of shit in the next from when she left until the end of 2017. I did a lot of shit. No, 2018, I should say. I did a lot of shit. It was a good time. It was a great time. It was finding out who I was again. Because one thing with BPD is you don't really have a sense of self, which is why I could get along with so many people because I didn't know what I really was. So, so that all was great. Um, Started seeing my kids. Like I said, it's basically a joke of a visitation. I get to see them for 30 hours a month. But you know what? I get to be in their life, which is all I want, really. I didn't have my father in my life because my mother kept him away uh, through a lot of lies and shit. Um, so again, I will get to these comments. Don't you worry. Um, so that was like year one, basically, right? Getting myself back to myself. Then I started dating. Um, can't say I dated everybody great. Can't say I dated everybody great. Between my ex-wife and where I am now, was what, just over 2 years. Um, dated 18 girls in that time. Dated 18 girls in that, and I've been with the one I'm with right now for 8 months. So in that 2 years period, with 8 months gone, 18 girls. Do the math on that. Most of them I left. There was one or two that broke up with me, and when they broke up with me, I wasn't freaking out about what am I going to do. What am I going to do? The BPD, at least in that genre, was fixed. I didn't need somebody in my life. I kind of wanted somebody there, but I didn't need them, which was great. It was great to know that I had broken free of that, because in all honesty, I was with her for, oh fuck, we started dating in what? Oh, we were together for 15 years. We were together for 15 years for the wrong reasons. She had codependency issues, even though she will never admit them, and I had BPD where I just needed somebody. I knew 48 hours into that relationship that I shouldn't be in it, but it was somebody. It was the first person that actually really showed me any attention, showed me any interest. So I latched onto that and I lived with her. And I wasn't happy for a second. And I wanted to leave several times, but then we ended up having kids. And let me tell you, if you are somebody that has a child and you're with somebody just because you have a child, it's much better for the kid. It's much better for the child, for the two parents to be separate and happier than to be together and miserable. I mean, I didn't see that. I wish I had. I wish I had left after the first and dealt with things that way. And I mean, I hate saying that because it sounds like I don't want my other two. Because I have 3 kids with her. It's nothing like that. I love all 3 of my children. I just wish I could have changed the circumstances of their life so it wasn't the same type of things that happened with me. That's the only thing. I wish I could change those circumstances. I wish I could have seen through my own BPD at the time and dealt with things, but I couldn't. So I didn't. Um, Again, had a stalker during one of my datings. Apparently, she had a crush on me back when I first moved down here, and yeah, friends of mine told me not to date her, and there was red flags, and I dated her anyway. Red flags just kept going off. Dated another woman that was older than me. I dated like 3 women that were older than me. I had a married woman try to get me to sleep with her. Wouldn't do that because I'm not that kind of guy. I'm such a good Irish boy that I wouldn't cheat on my ex-wife, even though I was miserable with every second of my life. I sit here and I think, I feel horrible because I had told her things like, I love you. I never loved her. I said I loved her because that was what you were supposed to do. And it's not fair to her that that's what happened, but that's what happened. My illness made me do the things I did. And I'll hear about this. He talked about this, and our kids could see it. Our kids will know about this at some point in their life. When they're older, I will sit down and I will talk to them. I'll say, look, this is what happened. Your mom is a good woman. I wish her nothing but happiness, but I was sick and I did this. It's not her fault. It's not your fault. This is on me. This is what I did. Anyway, where I'm going with this is ended up meeting somebody from my past. And it was an interesting thing, this somebody from my past. I went to high school with her up in Arnprior. So I'm originally from the Ottawa Valley. I moved out of Ottawa into Arnprior. Then I came down here. And when I was in high school with this girl, I fell madly in love with her without knowing it, really. Uh, I wanted her bad, and I had such low self-esteem, such low self-confidence, all that stuff. I didn't say a thing. And she had some problems in her childhood that stemmed from abuse as well that gave her low self-esteem and low self-confidence. Funny thing is, I find out now that she had the same feelings for me back then as I had for her. But we went our separate ways. I went to Brock to go to school and wrestle. She went to Lakehead, which is up in Thunder Bay. But her parents moved down to Welland. So after her time in Thunder Bay, she moved down to Welland to be near her parents. Um, in the time I was with my ex-wife, I looked her up a couple times on Facebook, on MySpace, that type of stuff. I looked her up a few times, see what was going on. And every time I'd get to see her, I'd be excited, and then I'd see she'd be with somebody or something like that, and my excitement kind of dwindled. And then I'd get angry at myself because I'm married. I shouldn't be looking at this stuff. This stuff shouldn't be on my mind, but it was. Um, Fast forward 13 years, and I'm divorced. I'm single. She's single, and we start dating and find out all this stuff. I'm engaged to get married again. Yeah, quick. I know, but this I've had feelings for this girl for 18 years. 18 years I've had feelings for this girl. Um, it took no time at all for those feelings from my childhood to be back with her. Basically, I felt that way while we were talking on. Sorry, it's just Boris over there. When we were just talking to each other again before we'd even set eyes on each other again, I had all my feelings rush back. Mostly as soon as I realized she knew who I was. Because when I sent her our first message, and yeah, I guess technically we're a internet dating site, success story. But when I sent her my first message, she sent back, "I think I went to high school with you." And I'm like, "Oh no, I know I went to high school with you." She goes, "Oh, really good, because you did go to high school with me, and I was afraid you didn't remember who I was." So I mean, it was sickening the way it went down. Now the reason I bring her up is that she's a saint. She deals with a lot, and the main part of this heart to heart, which I've been rambling now for this much time, is the last few weeks after everything's been said and done, after realizing just how little money I have because most of my shit goes to my ex-wife, and there's no way to fix that because I go get another job, and guess what? More of that money goes to her too. So I need to work like three jobs to make the money that I made at one job. It's a disgusting, disgusting thing. I have no problem paying child support. I have no problem supporting my kids. I think that the way support is set up right now is pretty archaic because it's still looking at the old way where women never worked. So you're having to support fully like two households. It's not right. It's not right at all. But that's the way it is, and I can't change that. Anyway, stuff like that started dwelling on me, and little things in my. I started eating sugar again. I haven't had sugar in a long time. I really started eating it hardcore, thinking I could. I stopped working out for a while. Things started happening at work. Things started happening at home, and I spiraled. I spiraled something fierce. I spiraled to the point where for 3 days, Alicia was scared every day she went to work that she was coming home to me dead. And I won't lie, I was kind of scared each day that I was going to do that because that's where my mind was at the time. My mind was back to where it was when I was being beat most days at home. Um, when Back to where I was when I was being told daily that there was no way I would ever please a woman, being told daily how disgusting I was, being told daily how I ruined my mother's life, how I did this, how I did that. I was back to where there is no way for me to be a useful human being to somebody in this world. And the last time I was at that point, the only thing that kept me from doing it was knowing that my kids were upstairs, knowing that I would be taking away their father, even if I wasn't a good father at the time because I was a zombie. I was still their father, and I was still there for them. My father wasn't there for me. No fault of his own, but he wasn't there for me. I wasn't going to do that to them. This time, there wasn't much that was stopping me. In all honesty, she would lay there in bed with me while I was in my depressive mode, holding me, talking to me, trying to talk me down the entire time, telling me how much she loved me, how long she's loved me. Oh, this woman's a saint that deserves better than what I can give her. But it's weird to know that even after 2 years of therapy, which I know isn't that long, but changing everything about your life and all that, that it can come back. And the weird thing about it coming back is I'm not miserable like I was before. I'm actually the happiest I've ever been in my life. I'm euphoric most of the time. But when this stuff comes in, it comes in hard. And then you always see or hear about people that are like, "Hey, just get over it. Just do this. Just do that. It's all in your." It's not. It's really not something you can just get over. It's really not something that's easy to just write off. It's something that pisses me off that people actually do just write it off. Um, it it is a difference in your life that happens. It's this different thing. And I mean, you think it's just, oh, I'm sad. No, the entire time I was empty. I had nothing. I didn't feel sad. I was empty. I didn't feel angry. I was empty. I didn't feel happy. I was empty. You feel almost as if you're already dead, and it's the weirdest thing ever. And the fact that you can't talk about it. You can't go out and talk. She's the only person I could talk to about it. I go and talk to somebody at work about it, I'm going to be on a leave of absence. I go and talk to, uh, I call the suicide hotline. They might send the cops or something to my house. Sometimes you just want to talk about the way you felt or the way you're feeling. Sometimes you are calling for help. Sometimes you're not. Um, so that took me out of the game for a long time. That took me out of the game for uh, well, 2 or 3 weeks. I've been out of the game because of that. I've not been able to get back in the game. And then to know that, like, I was supposed to have my kids tonight. I was supposed to have my kids tonight. They were supposed to be here today and tomorrow for my weekend visit. And I couldn't because, according to our court order, I owe my ex-wife money for gas for her to come here, even though she moved away and everything like that. I can't afford to give her gas money because I just make it, after paying her out her child support and her gas money, I make enough for my bills, and that's it. I wouldn't even be eating if I wasn't with Alicia because I can't afford to eat. I spend like $10 in groceries a month, and I buy fucking Chinese noodles. I buy a bunch of Chinese noodles and some peanut butter. That's what I buy because that's what I can afford. Uh, then I'm supposed to be saving up for a wedding again. It's not going to be much of a wedding because I can't afford it. But I'm supposed to be saving up for a wedding. Wow, and I mean that's those stresses. Those stresses add to you. Those stresses add to everything that's going on up here. But basically, it all started a few weeks back. Well, about a month and a half back or so, when my meds stopped working. The antidepressant I'm on is basically an amphetamine. So at some point, your body was going to get used to it and it was going to wear off. Well, it wore off, and I didn't realize it wore off, and I tail spun real quick. I went from way up here to crawling on the ground in a very quick succession. Um, we got that stabilized by putting me on a higher dosage, the highest dosage you're allowed to be on. But hey, let's try this, Chad. Okay, let's try this. And it's pretty good, but it's been a rocky road, and there are times where she deals with things she shouldn't have to. And the biggest problem is depression's involved in BPD as well. Okay, so BPD is a personality disorder. It's not really chemical related, so it's therapy that fixes that. The depression is supposed to be chemical related, so that's why the pills work on that. Well, if the depression is being caused by the personality disorder, not the actual depression, you're kind of fucked with thinking that just your pills are going to work. And that's what was happening was triggers were going off. Like my mother came to visit, and that was a trigger for me because that just made me think of everything that happened to me in my younger years. And I could forgive my mother in a heartbeat if she would just admit to some of the things that happened. But she refuses to. And I mean, I think that's part of the problem is whenever I see her, I just remember that she refuses to admit to the things that she let happen to her kids, um, to the things that made people try to take her kids away from her. But back then in the 80s, you weren't getting the kids from their parents unless you were like trying to kill them. So she never lost them. Um, I I think I just wanted to make this video just to talk about that, just to talk about the fact that yeah, I have gone I have gone I have gone 17 years since my last attempt of my life. I have gone up until a few weeks ago. I went 2 years from even thinking about doing that to myself again, of even thinking about hurting myself. And then it all crashed. It all crashed. And needing help isn't something to be sad about. Asking for help isn't something to be sad about or to feel bad about. It's refusing to ask for that help. I think that is something horrible. But I can understand why people don't want to. I understand it because when I came out the first time, when I came out after hiding for 16 years, I lost family members, I lost friends, I lost a lot. I almost lost my kids from coming out and admitting to my problems. One of the things I want my kids to know as I get older is that their dad was strong enough to fight for himself and fight for them. And I hope anyone that has problems out there is strong enough to fight for themselves and fight for anyone important in their life. I don't agree with some people that say that suicide is I don't believe with some people that say suicide is selfish. In my mind, my thoughts is that I'm helping the people around me. It's not I want out of this world so much as people are better off without me and this will help them. And yes, I know it leaves a void. I've been involved with family and friends that have committed suicide themselves. It leaves a void that can't be fixed because you don't ever get that closure. But at the same time, and it might just be because of my BPD that happens, but even though you never get that closure, the wound heals a little bit to the point where you can get by. And I think that's what goes through in my mind is, sure, they'll never have the closure, but no, not having that closure is better than dealing with me and my bullshit day in and day out. And I think that's the way that my mind figures it all. Not right, it's flawed logic, but it's the way that it goes through your head, goes through my head. And I mean, I hope that people know to reach out. I do have a few viewers that have reached out to me in the past, and I'm glad to say that most of them are good friends of mine now. I know this is probably something nobody wants to listen to, probably something nobody wants to hear, and it's probably something that's going to affect me and my relationship with my children at some point, but you know what, it's something that I had to get off my chest, because getting this off my chest is very important. Holding it in makes it fester, makes it eat at me, makes it grow, makes it multiply, makes it strong. Talking about it takes the strength away from it. Talking about it makes me feel better about it. Now, I did see there was a few comments, so I'll get to those, and then I'm going to go. Let's see what was said, eh? Oh, Brendan, good day. Sorry, drunk enough to hear that, and yeah, that's just it, right? And if your fiance left you, I mean, it wasn't meant to be, and I mean that's the thing, right? I told myself over and over again that Christy was the one for me. I tell myself over and over again, even though I didn't believe it, I tell myself that just to try and make me okay with being there. And I don't know if she thought I was going to hurt if she left, or if her parents thought I was going to hurt, or if they wanted to. When she left, I was happy. I was finally happy for the first time in a very long time, because I got to start over. It took me a while to get over it. It took me a while of doing my therapy and all that to realize that, yeah, I can make it. I don't need her. I don't need anyone. But it was intriguing. Anyway, guys,